You have almost certainly heard these words spoken over a coffin. Standing at the edge of a grave in the worst hour of your life, someone in dark clothes reads them aloud to you, slowly, as comfort. The dead shall be raised. This mortal must put on immortality. Where, O death, is your sting? They are some of the most familiar words in the entire Bible, and we have worn them so smooth with grief that almost no one notices what they actually are. Because the man who wrote them was not, in that moment, writing comfort. He was answering a question, a blunt, almost clinical question that someone had thrown at him in scorn. And the answer he gave back is not a soft poem about heaven. Read it cold, in order, line by line, and it stops sounding like consolation and starts sounding like something far stranger. A procedure, a sequence of stages, a step-by-step account of what happens to a dead human body, what triggers it, what order it follows, and what comes out the other side. The single most read passage at the edge of every grave in the Western world is, if you actually stop and look at it, a description of how the dead are rebuilt, and almost nobody on earth reads it that way. Let me be careful and exact about what I am claiming, because this channel does not deal in things that fall apart the moment you check them. The letter is not lost and it is not hidden, and I am not going to pretend it is. Just the opposite. The 15th chapter of the first letter of Paul to the people of Corinth is one of the most read passages in all of Scripture, the standard reading at funerals across the world. And that is exactly the problem. We have heard it so many times, always in the same dark setting, always as a comfort handed to the living, that we have stopped hearing what it actually says. So let us read it the way you are never meant to read it at a funeral, coldly, in order, as if it were a technical document handed across a desk, because that, underneath all the grief it has soaked up over the centuries, is a great deal of what it actually is. Start with why it was written at all, because the reason changes everything about how you hear it. Paul is writing to a community in the Greek city of Corinth, and they have a very specific problem. They do not doubt that something survives death. Plenty of people in the ancient world believed in some kind of surviving soul, a spirit that floats free when the body fails. That part was easy for them. What they cannot swallow, what they are openly sneering at, is the resurrection of the body, the idea that the actual flesh, the same flesh they have watched go cold and rot in the ground, comes back. To a Greek mind that prized the spirit and despised the messy, decaying body, that was not just unlikely, it was crude, embarrassing, beneath them. And so they throw a question at Paul and he repeats it back to them, and you can almost hear him repeating it through his teeth. How are the dead raised? And with what kind of body do they come? It is a challenge, not a prayer. It is the ancient version of prove it, describe the mechanism. Tell us exactly how a rotted corpse is supposed to stand up again, because you cannot. Now watch very carefully what Paul does next, because it is the opposite of what every instinct tells you a religious teacher would do. He does not say, just have faith, do not ask such things. He does not wave the question away as a holy mystery too sacred to examine. He does not retreat into comfort. He takes the cold question head on, the mechanical one, the with what body question, and he answers it. He says, in effect, you want the mechanism. Very well, here is the mechanism, and what follows is, I think, the single most overlooked piece of forensic writing in the New Testament, but before he tells them how, he first nails down that it happened at all, and he does it exactly the way a man builds a case in front of a hostile jury. He calls witnesses. He does not open with feelings, and he does not open with faith. He opens with a list of names, people who he says saw the risen Christ with their own eyes. He was seen by Cephas, Paul says, then by the 12. After that, he was seen by more than 500 people at a single time. And then he adds the kind of detail that only a man inviting you to check would ever add, that most of those 500 are still alive right now, as if to say, go and ask them yourselves. Then he was seen by James, then by all the apostles, and last of all, Paul says, by me. That is not the shape of a sermon. That is the shape of testimony, with an open invitation to cross-examine the one still breathing. He nails down the fact first, and only then turns to the question of how, and the answer begins with a seed. Notice the tone he answers in, though, because it is not gentle at all. To the person demanding to know with what body the dead come, Paul throws back a single hard word before anything else. Thou fool, he says, you fool. What you sow is not made alive unless it first dies. He is almost angry that they cannot see it, because to him the answer has been growing in every field they have ever walked past. This is the first stage, and it is the stage that offends people the most, because it does not begin with light or with glory. It begins with death and with rot. Think about what actually happens when you plant a seed. You do not put a small finished plant into the soil. You take a hard, dry, dead-looking little thing, and you bury it. And down there in the dark it has to crack open and swell and break apart and dissolve before a single green green shoot ever rises. The seed that goes into the ground is not the object that comes out of it. The plant that rises is connected to the seed. It came from the seed. It is the same life, but it is not the same thing. It has been transformed almost beyond recognition. That, Paul says, is your body, sown like a seed, placed into the earth, and the dissolving that we feel as nothing but loss is, in his account, not the failure of the thing, but the deliberate first stage of it, the old body unmade before the new one can be raised. Almost everyone stops reading right there, at the grave in the dark. Paul is telling you calmly that the grave is only step one. And then he does something that proves he is thinking like a man describing a category of things and not a man offering a hug. He starts cataloging different kinds of bodies, different kinds of flesh, as if he is laying out a specification sheet. Not all flesh is the same flesh, he says. There is one kind for people, another for animals, another for fish, another for birds. And there are heavenly bodies, and there are earthly bodies, and the glory of one is different from the glory of another. There is one glory of the sun, he says, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, and one star differs from another star in glory. He is making a point with that catalog, and the point is technical. He is saying, before he even tells you what the raised body is, that bodies come in fundamentally different types and grades and glories, that a thing can be a body and still be built to a completely different specification than the one you know. He is preparing you to accept a body that is genuinely not like the one in the coffin. Then he lays out the raised body itself, and he does it in a series of hard, paired contrasts, almost like a table of inputs and outputs, before and after. It is sown in corruption, he says. It is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. Read that the way the engineer he is being would read it, not the way the priest we expect would. He is describing a change of kind, not a repair job. He is not saying the corpse gets cleaned up and the same flesh patched and switched back on. He is saying one kind of thing goes down into the ground and a different kind of thing comes up. Corruptible in, incorruptible out. Mortal in, immortal out. The continuity is real. It is genuinely your body. The seed and the plant are one unbroken story, but the thing that finally rises is built to an entirely different specification than the thing that fell. And here I have to stop and label something with great care, because this is exactly the kind of place where a channel can quietly slip a lie in and get itself taken down for it. Paul does not use the word machine. He does not use the word system. Those are my words. They are my lens for the shape of what he is describing, a thing that has stages, and an order, and a trigger. What Paul actually describes is a transformation, a living one, a seed becoming a plant. He does not describe a device, a piece of machinery that reassembles you atom by atom on some heavenly workbench. I am not going to pretend that he does, because he does not. The stages are genuinely there in the text. The hardware is not. Hold that line in your mind for the rest of this, because it is the whole difference between reading what the man wrote and inventing something he never said. With that line held, look at the next thing, because this is what makes it a sequence and not a single undifferentiated flash. Paul is explicit that there is an order to it. Everyone, he says, in his own order. It does not happen to everyone all at once in a single heap. There is a first and a then and an after that. Christ, he says, is the first fruits. That word matters. In the ancient harvest, the first fruits were the very first sheaf of the crop, cut and lifted up before all the rest, as the proof and the guarantee that the whole harvest behind it was coming. So when Paul calls Christ the first fruits of the dead, he is saying this is the first instance of the process, the one it has already happened to, the proof of concept, and the rest of the harvest follows in order behind him. Christ first, then those who belong to him, at his coming. And when you set this beside another letter the same man wrote to the believers in Thessalonica, the staging gets sharper still. There he spells out the order in steps. The dead, he says, rise first. The dead in Christ shall rise first. And then, only then, after that, those who are still alive are caught up to join them. First the dead, then the living. That is not a vague swirl of souls ascending. That is a stated order of operations. A first and a then, a procedure given in sequence. And the whole sequence, he says, is fired by a single signal. This is the trigger, the event that starts the clock running. Behold, he says, I show you a mystery. And stop on that phrase for a second, because it is the language of someone claiming to hand you hidden knowledge, to pull back a curtain on something most people do not get to see. I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, he says, but we shall all be changed, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised. There it is. a trigger event, a final trumpet, a single signal, and at that signal, the entire process initiates, all at once, faster than you can blink an eye. The dead are raised. The change runs through everyone, the living and the dead alike, all of it keyed to one instant. That is not the language of a vague and shapeless forever. That is the language of a system that has been waiting the whole time on a switch being thrown. And the word he chooses for what happens to you when that switch is thrown is worth stopping on completely, because the entire passage turns on it. The Greek word is allogezometha. We shall be changed, not we shall be replaced, not we shall be deleted and a fresh copy printed in our place. Changed, altered, the same subject carried over and transformed into a new state. It is precisely the word you would use for something that is truly converted from one form into another, and yet remains, unmistakably, itself. The seed is changed into the plant, and it is still that life. The mortal puts on immortality, and it is still you. You are not thrown away and a replacement installed in heaven. You, the same you, are changed. So step all the way back and look at what this man actually built, because it is nothing like the soft, shapeless, comforting cloud we have turned it into at the graveside. He was handed a hard, almost contemptuous question: with what body do the dead come? And instead of dodging it, he answered with a process stage by stage, from the seed that has to die in the ground to the last trumpet that fires the change in a single instant. Lay it out in its sequence and you are simply not looking at a hymn anymore. You are looking at a man describing, step by careful step, how he believed a dead body is brought back and built different than it ever was. And here is the thing that I think genuinely almost no one ever points out. The reason all of this is stranger than either side of the argument people usually have. When people picture life after death, they reach for one of two pictures. The first is the ghost. The soul floats free, leaves the body behind in the dirt forever and drifts off as pure spirit. The second is the zombie. The same corpse claws its way out of the same grave, the same decayed flesh simply switched back on and walking around. And Paul rejects both of them, flatly, both. The ghost is wrong in his account because he insists, against everything his Greek readers wanted, on a body, a real, raised, solid body, not a free floating spirit that escaped the flesh. And the zombie is wrong, just as flatly, because he insists the raised body is not the old one rebooted but a new kind of thing entirely, incorruptible where the old one was corruptible, powerful where it was weak. His actual answer is the one almost nobody walking around today actually holds. It sits in the narrow, difficult space between the ghost and the zombie, continuous with your body, the same story, the same life, and yet transformed clean out of its old nature. The seed and the plant, not abandoned, not merely restarted, remade. He even reaches all the way back to the beginning of everything to anchor it. The first man, Adam, he says, was made a living soul, formed from the dust of the ground, earthy, mortal. But there is a last Adam, and he is a life-giving spirit, heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, the dust man, the mortal body we all currently wear, so, he says, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Two templates, the one we have now made of dust and destined to dissolve, and the one we are to be changed into. The whole of humanity, in his telling, is built on the first pattern and headed, through this process, for the second. And he refuses, utterly, to treat any of this as a comforting metaphor, and that is the part that should stop a skeptic in his tracks. Paul stakes everything on it being literally true. If the dead are not raised, he says, then bluntly, our preaching is empty, your faith is empty, you are still in your sins, and those who have died are simply lost. If the dead are not raised, he writes, then we are of all people the most to be pitied. He does not leave himself a soft exit. He does not say it is a beautiful idea whether or not it happens. If the dead do not rise, he says, then there is no reason for the danger he throws himself into every single hour, and no reason left not to simply say, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Strip the rising body out, and by his own account, the only sane thing left is to live for the next meal, because nothing else would mean anything at all. He says it flatly, that if the body does not actually rise, the whole thing is a waste, and we are the fools. He has bet the entire structure on the mechanism being real, not on it being poetic. And then he tells you where the whole process ends, what the final stage actually produces, and it is the exact reason these words ended up being read over graves in the first place. When this corruptible has put on incorruption, he writes, and this mortal has put on immortality, then, only then, at the end of the whole sequence, shall be brought to pass the thing that was written long before. Death is swallowed up in victory. And then the line that everyone in the room has heard, even people who have never opened a Bible, O death, where is your sting? O grave, where is your victory? Read it in the cold light of everything that came before it, And it is not a sentiment, it is a result, it is the output of the process, the entire sequence, the seed, the dissolution, the order, the trumpet, the change. Every stage of it terminates in one final condition, a condition in which death itself is the thing that has been undone and swallowed. The mechanism does not simply end in survival, it ends in the destruction of the one thing every single person standing at that graveside is afraid of. So the next time you are the one standing at a grave, in your own dark clothes, in your own worst hour, and someone reads these words to you as comfort, listen to them again, underneath the comfort, because they are comfort. That much is true, but that is not all that they are. They are also a description. They are an answer to a question that someone, long ago, was rude enough to ask out loud. With what body do they come? The most familiar words spoken at the edge of human death turn out to be a step-by-step account of what the man who wrote them claimed actually happens next. The poem and the procedure are the very same words. We have just only ever let ourselves read one of them. So here, with nothing stretched and nothing invented, is exactly where it stands. Everything I have called a stage is Paul, his own words, in his own order. The only thing that is mine is the lens, the choice to call the shape of it a mechanism, and what no one, believer or skeptic, can take away from you is the strange fact underneath all of it, that the great comfort of the grave is, read coldly and in order, a man describing how he believed the dead are rebuilt. So go and read it for yourself, the 15th chapter, not at a funeral and not as comfort, but cold in order, like the document it secretly is. And watch the procedure rise up out of the poetry you were sure you already knew. The seed, the order, the trumpet, the change. If you have heard these words at a graveside your whole life, and never once heard the mechanism hiding inside them, write the word changed in the comments. The single word the whole passage turns on. And if you want to keep reading the most familiar pages of the oldest book the way they were actually written, as accounts and not only as comfort, then stay close. There is always another passage we have only ever half read, still waiting for someone to read it the rest of the way.